Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I was reaching for a plastic cup of ginger ale when I heard his voice behind me. Nicole, still playing health inspector, or did you finally get promoted to clipboard supervisor? I turned and there he was, Troy, my sister's husband. Polo shirt tucked too tight into khakis, beer in one hand, smug smile locked in. My name's Nicole Sanders. I'm 41. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, and I've put up with this asshole for almost 2 decades. The backyard was packed, pink and white streamers everywhere, folding tables piled with potato salad and those sugar cookies with the neon frosting. My niece Claire was glowing near the patio with her new fiancé, and the rest of the family was floating around like flies on coleslaw. Troy had cornered me near the drinks, like he always did. Still checking restaurants for dirty floors, he said, leaning closer like we were pals. Man, I don't know how you don't die of boredom. I forced a smile. It pays the bills. He snorted. Barely. You ever think about getting a real job? Or is it too scary out here in the big bad private sector? I gripped the edge of the drinks table. Not today, Troy. He raised his voice like I hadn't just spoken. Hey, y'all remember when Nicole said she's a federal agent? He made air quotes with his free hand. That was rich, like some episode of NCIS. A few cousins chuckled. Someone walked away awkwardly. My cheeks were burning. I scanned the yard for my sister Megan. She was across the lawn near the grill, holding a drink and pretending not to hear. That was her thing. Always pretending. Troy kept going. I'm just saying, my wife runs an entire property firm, and her sister's out here measuring sneeze guards at 7-Eleven. I stepped back. I don't have time for this. He grinned. That's right. Government hours. Gotta be in bed by 9 to hit the lunch rush. I started to walk off, but he wasn't done. Hey, Claire, he called out. My niece turned curious. Make sure your caterer passes Aunt Nicole's top secret FBI sandwich inspection? Claire blinked. Her fiancé looked confused. Megan still said nothing. Quick note, before we go on, share which city or country you're watching from. I kept walking, straight past the gift table, past my aunt slicing sheet cake with a plastic knife. I didn't stop until I hit the side gate. Troy's voice was still carrying behind me, but not for long. I stopped at the side of the house, arms crossed, heart pounding harder than it should have been. I wasn't embarrassed. I was pissed, not just at Troy, but at myself for letting it get this far. Again, he always did this. Every family event, every time we were in the same damn space, he'd make me the punchline. And Megan. She'd smile, maybe change the subject, act like I was being sensitive. I still remember her baby shower, the one with the pink balloons and the weird fruit centerpiece shaped like a baby carriage. I'd flown in from New York, straight from a closed-door meeting with IRS criminal investigations. I barely slept, changed clothes in the airport bathroom, and showed up with a diaper cake I ordered online because I had zero time to shop. Troy took one look at it and said, "Wow, did you inspect this for bacteria on your way here, Agent Sanders?" Everyone laughed. Megan giggled, said something like, "Oh, stop," and moved on. I didn't say a word. What could I say? Then there was the funeral. Dad's. I had flown in again, late, because the case I was working had blown up in 3 states at once. I made it just in time to carry his casket. Megan was quiet, crying softly, and I sat beside her in the pew. Afterward, we gathered in the church basement for sandwiches and coffee, and Troy leaned over and said, "Government didn't give you the day off. You have to sneak out of a subway to get here." That time, Megan didn't laugh, but she didn't say a damn thing either. Christmas dinner last year, same crap. I brought wine. I sat quietly. Troy told everyone I was too scared to get a real job where results matter, then did a fake whisper about how I probably still lived in my government-issued dorm room. Megan just stared into the mashed potatoes. It was like this on a loop. For years. And I let it slide, partly because if I opened my mouth and told them the truth, I'd blow my cover. But mostly because nobody ever asked. They didn't care what I really did. It was easier for them to believe I was the loser sister with the badge that didn't matter. I leaned against the siding, exhaling. I could still hear him laughing back near the drinks table. The man loved his own voice more than anything else. And right on cue, it got worse. "So what exactly do you inspect now, Nicole?" Troy bellowed across the yard. Napkin holders, toothpick jars. Laughter again, louder this time. People were actually stopping to listen. Claire and her fiancé were maybe 20 feet away, standing by the tiki torches. She looked over, eyebrows up. The poor guy next to her just blinked, totally lost. Careful what you serve, Claire. Troy kept going. You've got a professional menu cop in the family. One false move and she'll shut your engagement down. My stomach turned. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. I stepped back into the crowd. I wasn't going to let him bark into the wind and get away with it. Not this time. I passed the buffet table, brushed shoulders with two cousins who wouldn't meet my eyes, and made my way toward where Claire stood. Her fiancé glanced at me, polite smile, clearly unsure if he should laugh or look concerned. Claire tilted her head. Aunt Nicole, are you really a health inspector? I looked at her, just looked for a second. Then I said, you could say that. Troy laughed behind me. Translation? She walks around in a vest pretending to matter. It's adorable. I didn't turn around. I just stared straight at Claire. She was a sweet kid, and her fiancé looked like he'd come from a family that said grace before dinner and meant it. But they didn't know me. Not the real me. They only knew the version Troy had been painting for years. And Megan? She was 5 feet away, sipping wine. Not a word. Not one damn word. I finally turned and looked her in the eye. She looked down. That was all the confirmation I needed. I stepped forward again, right past the tiki torch, closing the space between me and the little circle Troy had built. Let him run his mouth. He had no idea what was coming next. Before I could say a word, someone tapped my arm. It was Ethan, Megan's son, 19. Taller than I remembered, hair longer, nervous look on his face like he'd just walked into the wrong room. Hey, he said quietly, eyes darting past my shoulder. There's a guy here asking for you. Said it's work. I blinked. What? Ethan motioned toward the side of the house, near the garage. Blazer. Looks official. Kinda intense. That's when I saw him, standing half in shadow, hands clasped in front of him like he was trying not to draw attention. Black slacks, pressed white shirt, slim gray tie, and the navy blue blazer. The kind you don't wear to backyard parties. Josh Kim. My stomach dropped. I followed Ethan through the crowd, keeping my pace steady. People were still laughing at Troy's dumb joke about government-grade potato salad, or whatever the hell he was saying now. I barely heard it. I was locked on Josh. What are you doing here? I asked the second I reached him. Didn't have a choice, Josh said under his breath. It blew open this morning. Our guy in Miami flipped. They need you downtown. Now. I stared at him. I thought the drop was next week. It was, he said, until this morning. We've got the Swiss account numbers and 3 shell companies pinned. The meeting starts in 40 minutes. I blinked, trying to process that. Months, no, years, of slow burn investigation, wire transfers, fake charities, corporate fronts across 6 states. And now, everything was unraveling in real time. Josh lowered his voice even more. You're leading the debrief. Your fieldwork's front and center. Ethan stood a few steps back, wide-eyed. What? I turned, realizing he'd heard enough to know this wasn't about restaurant scores or dirty ice machines. Troy's voice slammed into the conversation like a damn wrecking ball. Let me guess, he called out, walking over with his drink raised. Is this your supervisor, Nicole? Another clipboard carrier. Josh's jaw tightened. I saw the flash in his eyes, the one I'd seen before, back when we were following a suspect into a fake rehab center in Arlington. It was the look he gave right before he snapped the badge out. I'm sorry, Josh said flatly. And you are. Troy puffed out his chest. Brother-in-law. I hear all about Nicole's adventures with sneeze guards and salad bar sneeze zones. Glad to see someone else wears a blazer to the food court. I felt the heat rise in my throat. Ethan stepped back like he was trying to disappear. Josh stayed calm, but his tone sharpened. Actually, I'm Agent Josh Kim, Office of Special Investigations, Department of the Treasury. Troy blinked. Wait. What? Josh didn't smile. Nicole and I work together. She's been embedded in a long-term fraud investigation involving financial laundering, cybercrime, and offshore tax havens. Troy laughed, loud, forced. Come on, you're kidding. Josh just stared. I could feel the shift around us. Conversations behind us slowed. Megan was nearby, still holding that wine glass like it might shield her from what was unfolding. She's not a health inspector, Josh said. That was her cover. Troy's face fell, confused, defensive. Ethan looked at me. Wait, this is real? You're actually, federal. I nodded once. Troy shook his head, still trying to get back control. So what? Now she's Jason Bourne with a clipboard. Josh didn't flinch. No, she's the lead agent on one of the largest financial crime cases this department's ever handled, and we need her downtown in 30 minutes. Troy opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Megan stepped forward. Nicole, why didn't you ever say anything? I finally looked her dead in the eye. That's why I missed Christmas. That's why I left Dad's funeral early. That's why I showed up late to your shower, Megan. And you never asked. She froze. Josh leaned toward me. We've got to go. They're waiting. I nodded. Behind me, Troy stood there like someone had pulled the rug out from under his carefully constructed fantasy. Ethan looked stunned, but not in a bad way. More like the lights finally turned on. As I followed Josh to the car, I didn't look back. Not yet. They'd heard just enough to realize they didn't know me at all. I'd barely taken 2 steps toward the car when Josh stopped walking and turned around. Troy had started running his mouth again behind us, low at first. Some smug remark I didn't quite catch. But Josh caught enough. He turned so fast, I thought he was about to cuff him. All right, that's enough, Josh snapped, loud enough to cut through the entire backyard. Let me clear something up since you're so invested in pretending Nicole's life is a punchline. People looked up. Conversations paused. The fake party music someone had, looping from a Bluetooth speaker, hit a lull like the universe itself wanted him to keep going. Josh stepped forward, sharp and calm. Nicole Sanders is not a health inspector. She's not some low-level pencil pusher. She's a senior field agent for the U.S. Treasury Department, Office of Special Investigations. Troy laughed, but it cracked in the middle like even he didn't buy it. Come on. She led a multi-agency investigation into a financial crime syndicate operating across state lines and foreign jurisdictions. The kind of case that takes years. You know those headlines you scroll past about tax fraud and cyber laundering? Nicole's the one who makes those headlines happen, quietly, while people like you crack jokes over potato salad. The silence that dropped around us was thick. Nobody moved. Someone near the grill turned down the music completely. Troy's face twitched. That's ridiculous. I mean, what? She wears a vest and takes pictures of dirty sinks. Josh cut in again, voice sharp. She's been undercover for 5 years, embedded inside a network of corrupt financial consultants, men who move millions for cyber criminals, launder offshore cash, and sell access to hacked identities. She infiltrated them one by one, built fake relationships, pulled their bank trails, traced the shell companies. He looked straight at Troy. So no, she doesn't inspect napkin holders. She dismantles white-collar crime rings, and she's better at it than anyone in our office. Troy's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ethan stood a few feet behind him, eyebrows raised, jaw slack. That's when Megan finally moved. She edged closer, slow like she didn't want to draw attention but couldn't help herself. Nicole, she said soft, why didn't you ever tell us? I turned. I'd been waiting for that one. That's why I missed Christmas, I said. That's why I left Dad's funeral early. That's why I showed up late to your baby shower and disappeared halfway through dinner. She looked stunned. I kept going. Because while you were laughing at Troy's jokes, I was taking phone calls outside in the cold trying to stop some jackass in Delaware from stealing retirement accounts. Because I was briefing agents from 3 different cities while you pretended I just didn't care enough to show up. Megan shook her head, still processing. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, I said. You never asked. Josh stepped forward again, calmer now. She couldn't tell you. Deep cover means you stay buried until the last piece falls into place. If Nicole had told even one wrong person, the whole operation would have collapsed. People would have walked free. I looked at Troy. You think you're clever, but you're just loud. All these years you thought I was beneath you. I was building a case that's going to take down 37 people tomorrow. CEOs, bankers, crypto brokers, gone. His face turned pale. Josh leaned toward me. We're gonna be late. I nodded but didn't move yet. Megan was still standing there like she didn't know whether to hug me or apologize or vanish into the lawn. I stared at her. She didn't say anything. She just blinked fast like maybe that would make the truth go away. You never defended me, I said. Not once. You'd hear him run his mouth, and you'd just sip your drink or change the topic. Every single time. She opened her mouth, closed it. Josh gave me a look. Time was running short. I stepped past Megan, past the cluster of cousins, pretending not to eavesdrop, and headed for the gate again. This time, nobody stopped me. Even the wind felt different, lighter, sharper, the kind that cuts through cheap party decorations and bullshit in one clean pass. The moment was over, but the fallout hadn't even started. I had my hand on the gate when I heard Megan behind me. Nicole, wait, she said, her voice thin and unsure. Can we, just for a second, can we talk? I stopped but didn't turn around. Josh gave me a look, not pushy, just waiting. I held up one finger and turned back slowly. Megan was standing near the folding chairs, arms crossed tight like she was cold, even though the evening air was still sticky. I didn't know, she said. I didn't realize any of that was real. I thought it was just you being private or distant. I walked back a few steps. You didn't want to know. She shook her head quickly. That's not fair. No. Okay, let's walk it through. Her mouth tightened. You remember your baby shower, I said. I flew in straight from New York, hadn't slept in almost 30 hours. I was juggling 2 shell corporations, trying to track funds out of Dubai, and Troy thought it was funny to tell everyone I was the government lunch lady. You said nothing. She looked at the ground. What about Dad's funeral? I stayed just long enough to help carry his casket, then had to leave for a sudden meet with a whistleblower. Troy made that crack about me sneaking out of a subway. You laughed, Megan. You laughed right there in the church basement. I was nervous, she said, soft. I didn't mean. And Christmas, I cut in. Last year, he called me a fake government worker in front of everyone. I was deep into this case. I couldn't risk a word. And you changed the subject. Again. She flinched. Troy jumped in from the side, defensive as hell. Come on. It was just jokes, Nicole. You never said they bothered you. Because I couldn't, I snapped. Do you think I wanted to sit through every family gathering getting mocked like some DMV reject while I was working cases that could land people in federal prison? He backed up a little. You treated me like some pathetic hanger-on, and Megan just let you. I didn't know, Megan repeated. I just thought you were distant. You always kept to yourself. I pointed right at her. That's the thing. You never asked. Not once. You never pulled me aside and said, hey, what do you actually do? Are you okay? Is everything all right? You just went along with whatever Troy said because it was easier. Troy folded his arms. Okay, you made your point. No, I really haven't, I said, because for years I've been the butt of every dumb joke in this family. I let it slide because I was doing something that mattered, and I thought maybe when it was over it'd be worth it. But now, I don't even know if I was wrong for staying quiet or right for giving up on you both. Megan's eyes were red now, but she didn't cry. She just stood there, looking like the words were too much and not enough all at once. Behind us, the party kept going. Laughter floated over from the other side of the yard, where people had started dancing near the patio lights. The world didn't care that my life had just detonated in the middle of the grass. Josh stepped forward, his voice low but clear. Nicole, we really do have to go. The task force is waiting. I gave Megan one last look. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Nothing left to say. I turned and walked out through the gate without looking back. This time, I wasn't the one hiding. Josh drove with one hand on the wheel and the other resting near the radio, but he didn't touch it. The silence in the car felt thick, heavy, like it needed to sit there for a while. I stared out the window, the party lights disappearing behind us in the side mirror. The second we pulled onto the main road, I finally exhaled. For real, like I'd been holding my breath for 10 years, and just now remembered how lungs worked. Hell of a party, Josh said, glancing over. I gave a dry laugh. Family reunions always hit different when you drop a federal badge in the middle of them. He smiled, then went quiet again for a minute. I always thought it was weird they didn't know, he said eventually. You never mentioned your sister much, but I figured she at least had some idea. I shrugged. They thought I was embarrassed by what I did. Josh raised an eyebrow. You, embarrassed. Not about the work, I said. About how they treated it. Treated me like I was some deadbeat public employee faking a job so I didn't have to compete. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I've heard a few of those comments. Figured they were just messing with you. They were, I said, but they also meant it. Josh didn't say anything for a second. The highway lights flicked across the windshield in slow pulses. I stayed quiet for the case, I continued. I knew what I signed up for. Deep cover means deep isolation. I didn't expect applause, but I guess I thought when the truth came out, it might actually mean something. Josh tightened his grip on the wheel, just slightly. It does. Not to them. He glanced over. Maybe not now. But tomorrow, when the press sees what we've been building, when the headlines hit, when the numbers drop and the agencies go public, it's going to change everything. I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure it would. Not in the way he meant. Yeah, there'd be a press conference. My name would hit papers, maybe even news alerts. But none of that would fix what had already rotted in my family. They never asked because they didn't care. They never wanted to know me. Not really. I'd just been the quiet sister with the invisible job, the easy target who never talked back. Josh broke the silence again. You know, some of the guys at the field office thought you were hiding a husband. That pulled a short laugh out of me. That would have been easier to explain. He smiled. You sure you're ready for tomorrow? Doesn't matter if I'm ready, I said. It's happening. He nodded. The rest of the drive, we didn't talk much. But it wasn't awkward. It felt like we both needed the silence, like we were carrying the same weight, just in different directions. I kept thinking about Megan, not Troy. I didn't have space in my head for him anymore. But Megan, I didn't even know if I wanted her to call or if I'd answer if she did. The car rolled through the government lot, headlights hitting the beige concrete of the operations building. Josh parked, then looked over at me again. They'll know tomorrow. Everyone will. I nodded once. I just wasn't sure it would matter to the people who already made up their minds. The podium smelled like metal and rain. I stood 3 steps above the crowd, the wind catching the bottom of my agency windbreaker, the patch on my shoulder clear under the September sun. Treasury seal, Office of Special Investigations. No more hiding behind restaurant jokes. I heard the press before I saw them. Mics clacking, camera shutters popping. Someone shouted my name as the door behind me closed and locked. Agent Sanders, over here. Can you speak to the offshore accounts? Is it true a sitting CEO was indicted this morning? What's the estimate on total funds laundered? I raised a hand. We'll get to your questions. Just give me 60 seconds first. They quieted faster than I expected. My name is Special Agent Nicole Sanders. I've been working on this case for 6 years, 5 of those deep undercover. The people we arrested this morning weren't street-level scammers. They were professionals, accountants, consultants, investment managers. They wore suits, not ski masks. And they stole more money than most bank robbers dream of. I looked across the crowd, eyes locked on me, tripods and cell phones catching every word. We traced shell companies from Delaware to Singapore. We flipped 3 insiders and tracked dozens of fake charities. They used veterans' foundations to funnel crypto. They built fake scholarship funds to launder from hacked Medicare accounts. They drained retirement savings, small business loans, and pandemic grants. Another burst of flashes hit. I ignored them. This operation, internally codenamed Redwood, protected thousands of vulnerable Americans, retirees, family-owned shops, single parents just trying to keep the lights on. More reporters raised their hands. I nodded toward the one closest. How did you gain access to the network? I posed as a compliance consultant. I ran audits, flagged errors, built fake reports, and got myself invited to clean them up. Took a year just to earn their trust. Another voice jumped in. Was your identity ever compromised? Once, I said. A junior exec got suspicious in year 3. We fed him a burner trail and watched him walk straight into the FBI's net. The questions kept flying. Most of them I couldn't answer fully. The grand jury hadn't finished yet, and some of the international pieces were still classified. But I gave them what I could, enough to satisfy the press and not jeopardize the case. Is it true you were personally responsible for connecting the Cayman accounts to the primary laundering firm in Atlanta? I nodded. Yes, that was late stage. I cross-referenced internal staff payments with known hacker wallets on the dark web. A younger reporter near the back called out, Agent Sanders, how does it feel? Standing here now, knowing the public finally sees the work you've done. I paused. That question sat heavier than the rest. It feels overdue, I said. Not just for me, for the whole team. For every agent, every analyst, every person who's ever been called paranoid or boring for tracking spreadsheets while others look the other way. The crowd actually clapped for a second. Not all of them, but enough to make me freeze. I wasn't used to that. My picture had already hit 3 major outlets before I stepped off the podium. Someone showed me a headline: Treasury agent leads undercover operation to dismantle global fraud ring. My face, the same one Troy used to laugh at across the green bean casserole, was now on every evening news channel from here to Seattle. Josh came up beside me as the official briefing ended. "You did good," he said, nudging my arm. I gave him a nod. "I'm not staying for the handshakes." He grinned. "Figured." I slipped out through the side door, down the narrow hallway past the vending machines and badge scanners, out into the underground garage. No interviews, no cameras, no back padding from suits who hadn't seen a field op in 10 years. Just quiet concrete and the hum of fluorescent lights. That's how I liked it. Let the world have the headlines. Let the press guess what came next. For once, I wasn't hiding. I just didn't need the spotlight. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and kicked off my shoes without turning on the lights. The glow from my phone screen lit up the hallway enough to walk straight. I tossed my windbreaker on the couch, collapsed onto the cushions, and let my head fall back. Buzz, buzz, buzz. My phone was going off like it owed somebody money. I finally looked. 43 unread texts, 12 missed calls, 6 voicemails, 3 media requests, and a flood of notifications. LinkedIn, Facebook, a couple people tagging me in news screenshots like I didn't know what I'd just walked through. I opened the first message. "Josh, you killed it today. Proud to serve next to you." Then, Robin from Legal. "Did you see the BBC picked up the case? You're global now, girl." An analyst I barely knew from DC. "Can I get your autograph?" That press conference was savage. I smiled briefly. Then I saw them. 3 texts from Megan, all within the last 2 hours. Megan, "Nicole, I just saw the clip. I don't even know what to say. You were incredible. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Can we talk soon? Please, I mean it." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the reply button. Nothing came out. I locked the phone and dropped it face down on the coffee table. For once, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt earned. The apartment was still. No noise, no voices tearing me down. No cheap laughter behind fake smiles. Just the hum of the fridge, the faint sound of cars outside, and the steady beat of my own breath finally slowing down. This place used to feel like a bunker, like something I escaped to after every family gathering that turned into a roast. Now it felt solid, like mine, like peace. I got up, poured a glass of water, and stood by the window. Downtown lights blinked in the distance. Somewhere out there, reporters were writing, suits were panicking, and a handful of billionaires were lawyering up with everything they had. But none of that was in this room. I picked my phone up again, read Megan's last message one more time. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel obligated either. I felt done explaining, done hoping someone would suddenly care just because the spotlight flipped on. I didn't owe them clarity. I didn't owe them closure. I gave years of my life to the truth. And if my own sister needed a press conference to believe it, that wasn't my burden to carry anymore. I set the phone on Do Not Disturb and slid it across the table. Then I curled up on the couch, pulled the throw blanket over my legs, and finally let myself rest. No mask, no cover story, no pretending. Just me. And for once, that was enough. My phone rang exactly 1 week later. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the name, Ethan. I let it ring once more before I picked up. "Hey," I said, cautious. "Hey, Aunt Nicole," he said, voice tight like he wasn't sure he should have called. "Is this okay?" I didn't want to text. I leaned against the counter. "It's fine." He exhaled, quick. I wanted to say I'm sorry. For never asking, for assuming. I didn't say anything. "I mean," he kept going, "my whole life you were just the quiet aunt, the one everyone joked about. I guess I thought that's just who you were." "That's who I let you see," I said. "Yeah," he said, "but I should have looked harder. Or asked. I didn't. That's on me." There was a pause. "Anyway," he said, clearing his throat, "I'm leaving for Penn State next week. Mom's doing this little dinner Saturday night. Just a few people. She told me to invite who I wanted, and I want you there." I didn't answer right away. I stared at the fridge, then the floor, then the wall. My stomach twisted, not with anger, but hesitation. That house, that table, those chairs, all soaked in years of eye rolls and fake laughs. And Megan. I get it if you don't want to come, Ethan added, but I meant it when I said I'm proud of you. I watched that press conference like 3 times. My roommate's mom is in banking. She was losing her mind. I actually smiled. Dinner's at 6, he said. No pressure. Just, would be nice to see you. I let out a slow breath. Okay. Yeah, I'll be there. He sounded relieved. Cool. Thanks. We hung up, and I stood there a long minute with the phone still in my hand. Ethan wasn't the problem. He never had been. He'd grown up hearing all the wrong things and didn't know better until he did. And that mattered. People change, not always, but sometimes. And maybe that was worth showing up for, not for closure, not for approval, just to see what happens.